new generation is on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Snapchat. They are there, but you've got them for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
When you've got engagement times of like 9 to 11 minutes, which I think is what is averaging on Roblox, so you might know on Fortnite where the numbers are bigger. That's a meaningful connection that you're creating. And I think we're so used to, I come from a marketing background, and I think there's a transactional nature sometimes to a lot of marketing activity on social media. What is the call to action? Is it, even if it's a like, share, that is still a metric by which I'm, deeming success. To have an experience where actually community feedback and like someone going, I loved this, and being able to talk about that rating in a holistic way. That's a meaningful connection with someone.
You've also got core childhood memories there, right? Like I remember playing games, and I have very happy memories of like particular games I was playing. I don't remember ever liking something on social media though.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? So you're creating
Hundreds
core
of
childhood memories for BBC viewers of the future, which is quite incredible, really.
I kind of feel like this generation that's coming up is more about being involved in creation. They don't want to just consume, they actually want to be part of it, they want to amplify that. And I think Minecraft was a really incredible example of this year, where they're filming, or the cinemas are kind of struggling to get audiences that of adolescents age to come to the cinema, but actually they found that it went completely off the charts, viral, even with older generations. Like they had Jack Black, if you want to see him. But I think like there was just this whole viral trend around like the chicken jockey and the warnings of going into the cinema that you'll be kicked out if you throw popcorn or shout. But I think it just shows the power of this generation and how they consumed and they film their live reactions, post it to TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and then it fuels more engagement into the actual original source itself.
And I think that democratization of content, like this, that's Web3. That's the idea that they're, providing. It's not just ingesting; it's actually creating. And I think you're so right that actually, to feel like, when they're part of something on Roblox, they're making something. I think that's what is the real connection, and it's also tied back to that childhood memories. There's so much identity based in that now.
Yeah, absolutely. You also have. Sorry, we're really going off piece.
I know, do.
But TV's biggest problem, it was designed in an era where you make a season and then you wait a year or two until another season comes out, right? What's happening in the off season? Nothing. The fandom are frustrated, or they're just about entertaining themselves with what might happen. Obviously, the whole thing about games is they're omnipresent, playable anytime, craft a new story every day, and that's like incredible. Fortnite goes even further. You're dropping new seasons every 4 weeks with new skins, new levels, new guns. So, the best thing about the rap game for us was when the show finished, there was something people could still engage with. There was still a touch point. There was still a playability that could join between that long gap between seasons. And that's an incredible marketing tool, and sort of where TV needs to get to really like juice the engagement when you've got it. In my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And again, this is a conversation I have time and time again is, I will talk to people in film and TV who perhaps are not gamers, have never enjoyed games, don't really understand the point, are very much of that, era where they think it's a waste of time. And, and I'll talk about how it creates this expansive universe, at a time when, as you said exactly, we have fans in between seasons coming up with theories, and now instead of just perhaps typing onto a forum where they, frustratedly expressed who they wanted to get together, they go and build in Fortnite or in Roblox, and they create these worlds. If you look at Disney, they've just paid $1.5 billion to invest in Epic Games, obviously the makers of Fortnite, because they want to create expansive universes for their IP. Now, is it running into trouble because they suddenly realise people can do whatever they want with that IP in there? Yes, but that aside,
But this is a really important point as well. You talked at the beginning about sort of creative conversations and how does that all begin. Look, the thing is, again, TV people, I'm from a TV background, we control everything in the edit, from the first kind of word that's said to the final credit. Yeah. The whole point about games is you have to hand the world over to people and let them do whatever they want. And that can come with negative press stories, it can come with horrible things, it can come with heroic things, incredible things, individual stories for each of those people. So you have to get like comfortable, or IP owners and channels have to get comfortable with like going, we can't protect this anymore. Here, go and run away with it and have fun with it. Yeah. And that's quite a big step that a lot of people, especially the more valuable IP properties, won't want to take. But they've got to, because you have to hand it over really to keep it living.
I think you can do it in, coming from looking at after an IP of which, has a huge legacy and we're very protective of. There are ways to do it that isn't like,
yes, guardrails.
You can do it creatively and collaboratively. I think that's the whole. My connection to the point you're making is this idea that it's not about helicoptering in, and it's not saying this is what we're doing, and it's not about being exploitative. It's about working collaboratively with the community they're defining what it is, and you just need to understand what they're saying, and then find your connection. Back to your point about DNA, how you connect to it authentically.
Yeah, because I often think, for a long time, film and TV has quite often spoken to audiences, but games, they're having a conversation with them. And so it is about finding a way to make them feel like they're a part of that conversation. And it doesn't mean, as you said, often handing over everything, which I think people can be scared of. I mean, Tom, I'd love to talk to you about this because I think in particular, how do you kind of sell creating those worlds? As you said, you've had to go around, get the money to make them, get all the buy-in that you have to make a world like that, when it's not necessarily just about driving viewership back to the show, is it? So how do you kind of sell what that standalone ecosystem is and its value when it's not, as we would have done before, being like, and how does it get eyes on the show?
Look, just being honest with you, like the view from my point of view was not to just drive back to iPlayer at all. It was to see if we could kind of creatively and technically align these two worlds and do a cool thing and all learn from it and take one step toward the future, which we in a time where we all need to be doing that. So it wasn't really about hitting iPlayer. And then, a weird thing happens sometimes when you set off with these sincere kind of beginnings. Like, it got nominated for an award, it got hundreds of thousands of impressions. The new series launched higher than just, brilliant, that's excellent. But it wasn't really about driving back to iPlayer. And just to go back to my point really before, it was about just creating a touch point, a perennial touch point that fans of the show could just drop into whenever they wanted in between seasons, and just create a kind of eternal presence for the show beyond. There's only so many times you can watch a clip. There's only so many times you can re-watch Rap Game. But you can drop into Fortnite Rap Game and tell a different story every day. That's endless. It's incredible. Like, what an amazing piece of technology that you can do that. So yeah, that's kind of what I would, I guess, how I would justify it. Yeah. But mainly because it was just a really cool thing.
Yeah, and always tell me that it's driving back to iPlayer.
But more people did watch the show, so I don't think we have the data to piece the two things together, can we?
It's when you go to when you're working off platform, same with social media, the journeys are not direct. But we make sure, for example, successful for us is that it was heavily branded with iPlayer, that we're getting the BBC brand out there, that we are making people aware that there's a program, people that might not necessarily be coming to our platforms in the first place. So I think we all accept that there is an indirect link to that, and it's near kind of incredibly hard to mesh, like link it up, right? It's not, the data is not there, it's not available. However, we do it with the intention of increasing the awareness of the BBC brand and driving people back to iPlayer.
And I do think, there is something to be said for, we kind of talked about how much young people, how much time they spend in these worlds. It is their third space, it is their liminal space. Young people today spend twice as much time in game with their friends than they do with them in real life. 58% of young people under 16 said that they feel most like themselves inside a game more than they do in real life. So this is, a world to them. And one of the things I often say to brands is they just expect to see you there. If you aren't there, it's as if you weren't on the high street, or you weren't in a magazine, or you weren't all the places that you would expect your brand to be. You're not there if you're not in that world. So you're right, it is often just about building that familiarity with the brand in a space that feels kind of comfortable.
But I think it's, to that point, it's an add-on. I think, I've had conversations with some people that it's, especially who are promoting gaming experiences where they're like, social media is dead, this is where it's at now. And it's like, no, it's in addition to, this is. And I guess one thing that I had to make really clear with internal buy-in was, to your point around conversion and success of, we're not going to see a huge uptick in streams of Elton's. We're not, and like with the Disney conversation, we're not going to see everyone suddenly go and watch the live. This is about, creating something new and deeming success by a completely different metric. And I think that internal buy-in can sometimes be like, well, it's been tricky,
It's